So the idea of both Harry and his sister-in-law haunting it is very possible. Joyce Ice is a different one. She's actually been reported, because of the way that she died, she's been reported in more than one place downtown. She died in the Hurd building, which still stands. It's that 7-story building right there across from, what is it now, the Sheridan, Adams and Central. And the Hurd building has been there forever. And even though most of it's empty, a lot of it currently is being just document storage for ASU and a few other places. There's a dentist's office there. Now the ground floor has a Focaccio Florentine, a little sandwich place. But it's mainly empty. And people have reported activity in the Hurd building that, because of what our research found and the fact that it's a female that gets reported quite often, we think it might be Joyce Ice. That same Joyce Ice, she had a connection to the Orphium as well. It's funny how when we do research, we find these connections that are just amazing. And her husband, who we think might be responsible for her death, he actually worked at the Orphium for a while. We didn't really pursue her as a lead for the Orphium until we had some people that were sensitive in there. And the one thing that I noticed was the consistency of this one area where a fight occurred. It was reported that there was a scuffle in the notes that were left behind by management at the time. We got a report that someone was stabbed in there as a police report, and it all matches about the same time. And the gaps that are being filled in, unfortunately, and I don't mean this to demean anybody, because I know when it comes to being sensitive, sometimes it's like looking through a stained glass window to something on the outside.
Yeah.
It's not always clear what you get. But the gaps that we got filled in was by two different people who were sensitive. They reported a spot on the stage where they knew there was a lot of violence, that there was blood on there, that someone was getting hit in the head, that there was damage to the head, and that someone had been stabbed. They got the impression that no one had died, and they also felt that it was over a woman.
Okay, yeah.
So what our research ended up happening and finding out was that Fred Ice, Joyce's husband, short-term husband, he worked there at the Orphium. He was bothered by ever since Joyce died.
Yeah.
Some other male started coming around and harassing Fred Ice and pursued him. They got in scuffles. They got in arguments. And then when he was at the Orphium, they got in a fight on the stage that included the fact that Fred actually stabbed the guy. It was to stop him from banging his head into the stage.
Wow.
Which, again, matches a lot of the impressions that we got. And then we surmised, because of the person, and of course this happened after Joyce's death, that this was either a friend or paramour of Joyce's that was basically trying to seek some justice on Fred Ice. Fred survived, by the way. He ended up dying a few years later, but after he moved away from Phoenix. He finally had enough of it, I guess. But one of the things that convinced us it might be Joyce is that there was a recording that we got. And I'm not sure if you heard it on the tour that we gave. But we have a recording that someone made. One of the technicians that is no longer, his name's Robin. I can't remember his last name, but there's also a new Robin there. Evidently, sound technicians only come by the name Robin. I'm not sure what that's about. But
it's one of those little grapey loops, I guess.
Yeah. So with Robin, when him and I were talking, he said he had an experience where he was there by himself, just setting up some sound, and the mics over the stage, which was completely empty, started picking up what he said. It sounded like a fight. He said he heard arguing first, and he could only hear it in his cans when he was wearing his headphones. So when he took them off, he didn't hear anything. So he actually hit record, he said, towards the end of it. And part of that recording seemed like it's a really strange scuffle. Very strange noises. Very odd noises. And it's really hard to define what anything was. except for very faintly, there is a woman's voice in the recording that kept saying what he thought at the time was Howard or Coward. He couldn't tell which one was which. And that female voice, there wasn't anything related to that in that original fight that we researched. There wasn't anyone on stage with that, so we're not really sure where the female voice came from. But again, because Joyce was so related to both Fred and Fred's relationship with Orphium, and the fact that Joyce's body, after she died, she was taken to Al Moore and Sons, which was just right across the street from the Orphium.
Wow.
It's a mortuary. And so her body was just 50 yards away from that location. And the idea that here was Fred and her death was caused by his neglect and his cowardice. It is possible that, bringing those all together, it's possible that Joyce also haunts the Orphium as well. But so far she hasn't filled out a resume to tell her exactly who she is, so we can't say for sure.
Right. All right. Well, I remember when I was taking the tour that there was supposed to be a band that was supposed to be there. I think it was like a heavy metal band, but one of the guys, I think, was a drummer that was a sensitive, and he picked something up there, and they had to reschedule the whole thing. You want to talk about that story?
Yeah, Whitesnake.
That's who it was. Okay.
Whitesnake was the band. I bet if we look it up real quick, I can't remember his what is his name? One of the drummers was, he isn't with them anymore. He's one of the original drummers, but he's sensitive. And back in 2003, they were doing a Rock Never Stops tour, or Rock Never Dies tour. I can't remember which one it is. But they were there in Phoenix, and they were going to play at the Orpheum. They ended up leaving the Orpheum very quickly after they had set up. And in the middle of August, rebooked a spot out there at Cricket Pavilion. You know, the outdoor one.
Yeah.
In summer.
Yeah.
And so that's where they played. But the story goes from some of the production managers and from the staff is that when they set up, he came in. They were all downstairs. Tommy Aldridge, that's the guy.
Okay.
Yeah, Tommy Aldridge. Evidently, is sensitive, and I'm not really sure, the whole story behind that. But I'm told that he's sensitive and he hates it. He's one of those people that, because of sensitivity, he has had bad experiences, or it just creeps him out too much. I don't know. Being in Whitesnake probably would creep anybody.
Yeah, right.
But here he is there, and they set up, and within about 5 minutes, he said, "I can't play there. That woman up there keeps bothering me. There's someone up there in the balcony, and I can't play here," was basically his response. I don't know if it was Maggie that he saw. I don't know if she was making a request or headbanging, or I don't know what.
That'd be interesting to see go his headbanging to Whitesnake.
So he says there's no way I can play here. So that's why they rebooked the venue out to the middle of the desert in I think it was July or August. I think is when it was.
And the 120 heat, yeah, I could just imagine. So
yeah. So
all right. Well, one question I thought. It's Tom the cat. I thought that it was very cute that there's actually a ghost animal cat that was there, and likes to play around with different objects there.
Now, I've heard of that at other places before, where people hear dogs barking or stuff like that. Animals, for the most part, animal ghosts are more rare, and I don't see it too often. Don't hear about it too often, but this one, because they reported it, because it was part of what they would hear a cat crawling around, or especially very soon after the renovation. It has not happened a lot recently, the sounds themselves, but the activity seems to be just as frequent, to where things get knocked over when it really shouldn't be. In a stable environment, you set something down, it's supposed to stay there. But we heard about this cat-like activity, which I'm like, oh Christ, we're not going to be able to find out where a ghost cat came from, for God's sake. And I know we're reaching, but there is an actual cat that is associated with it. There is some history that we found in an article during the construction of the Orphium. They talked about a cat, which they named Tom. Yeah, I know, real original. But
You're right.
Anyways, Tom the cat, he was he was brought on basically like the construction mascot. They treated him well. They fed him when he came around. And he basically ruled the roost there. And the article we found talked about where he would hang out would be in the rafters above the stage. And he would stay up there and meow his displeasure down to everybody else. So Tom the cat.
Yeah.
So there's just some history, but it kind of matched with what the experiences people had back in the late 90s and early 2000s, where they would hear meowing and purring on stage and above the stage. And nowadays, the stage is built to where there's no scaffolding in that fashion where a cat could actually hang out. So it was very puzzling to a few people, and then they would hear them down in the security area and in the offices there. They don't hear it anymore, but they do get that impression. Now, I've also had one of the persons representative had they said there was a couple that followed them around. That it was a ghost couple.
Oh, lovely.
And the details that I got were sketchy because I think that was her details. They were sketchy. But as she was walking through there, she was basically also getting a tour by this ghost couple that had a relationship to them. When they were going to go downstairs to a certain area, the ghost lady, and again, I don't know how it is for some sensitive and not others, but she really felt like the ghost lady said she didn't want to go down there.
Okay.
And the reason the ghost man told her, and this was, of course, knowing that I never told this sensitive person about the cat, the ghost man said she's not going to go down there because she's allergic to cats.
Oh, wow.
And so cat allergies in the afterlife, I guess, still exist.
Yeah, I guess.
Sure
I don't know.
But
all right. Well, I'm gonna. One question I also have is how did the ghost tours get started?
Well, I had been doing ghost tours for a while downtown. I got involved with some friends of mine. They did the Ghosts of Phoenix tours at the San Carlos, and I helped them out, and we did research together, and I helped do tours together. And one of the things I wanted to get was historically accurate information, knowing really, because the ghost stories are fine, but I think like with Maggie, like with Joyce, we would like to find the real life people and see if it matches, because it makes it a little bit more solid. So I was doing research on the Orphium anyways, and I decided one of the best ways to learn about the Orphium was to join their organization and become a docent, so that I would give the historical tours that they give, I think, twice a month still. So I learned a lot about the Orphium that way, and they knew that I was giving ghost tours, but they really don't have, a lot of people that give to the Friends of the Orphium. There's some great support there, but they wanted basically a fundraiser, so they asked me would I be interested in doing a ghost tour. And lo and behold, I have been interested in doing a ghost tour in that place for years. And so I just kind of jumped at the chance, and we've done it for 2 years now. It's raised some money. It's made a big difference for the Friends of the Orphium. I know when the city came to them and they needed some cochlear implants, a type of hearing-assisted devices, because with cochlear implants, they're so much different than regular assisted hearing. So they need, the city wanted to update it, and so they came to it. So people with hearing issues can enjoy the theater when they come there. And so thanks to the Friends of the Orphium, they were able to step in and help fund that.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and so there's other stuff like that, booster seats. They just redid the carpeting, which the Friends of the Orphium helped out on. It was a huge undertaking. So, when they came to me and said, can you do this, and what would I charge? And my response was, I'm going to charge for the fact that I get to do this. I didn't take a dime.
Nice.
All of the stuff that you and the other guests came for, it went directly to the Orpheum, because I think that's where the money belonged, and it is an amazing building. So I think we're probably going to do it a third year in a row. I keep trying to find a way for someone like you and other guests that will enjoy it when they come back. Obviously, the stories don't change much.
Yeah.
My jokes don't change much, so which is very disappointing. So we try to find new ways of presenting it. So hopefully next year we'll have something just as
Well, I'll be keep